You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show, the show that brings together gardening, food, and the human story. I'm your host, Emma Biggs.
And I'm Stephen Biggs. We talk to creative food gardeners and farm and garden experts who break the rules and make new ones too. We're heading to Vermont on the podcast today to get some great ideas for what we can grow now in April, using things from the kitchen. We'll be talking kitchen scrap gardening with Em Shipman from KidsGardening. Wondering about planting lemon seeds, ginger scraps? We'll tell you about that and more. The Food Garden Life podcast today is a rebroadcast of the radio show that aired live on April the 5th. Em Shipman is the executive director of KidsGardening, kidsgardening.org. And Emma and I are huge fans of their organization and the work that they do to inspire kids to garden, inspire adults to spend time gardening with kids, and also to support educators with ways to weave gardening into the curriculum. And this month is Kids Gardening Month, so Em is joining us to talk about something that we can do right now, a project to get us started gardening. This is fun stuff, even if you don't have kids in your life right now. Em's background is food systems, agriculture, education, and play, outdoor play and gardening. And she believes that garden-based learning and hands-on plant-based education can change the world. Her goal is to make sure future generations of young people become a tidal wave of change to make our world better through gardening and through outdoor education. And I think that is such an awesome idea. Em's also a gardener and a mom. So get on board now with your kids gardening questions for Em. The studio email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And without further ado, let's get Em on the line. Hey, Em, welcome to the show.
Hey, Stephen. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to have you back. And, let's start out talking about Kids Gardening Month, because that's a wonderful theme for a month. Tell us about it and how people can participate in Kids Gardening Month.
Yeah, April is Kids Garden Month every year. And this year, our theme is called Let's Grow Together. So Kids Garden Month is an annual celebration of kids and gardening. And each April, we host a contest to celebrate kid gardeners and lift up all of the positive benefits that gardening has on kids and their communities. And our Let's Grow Together theme is really about asking kids to tell us who they garden with and how gardening helps them connect with their friends and family or their community in any way. So kids can enter our Kids Garden Month contest with their caregivers or with their educators by sending in pictures, photos, artwork, video, songs, dances, crafts, anything that they can think of. We really encourage creativity. There's a form on our website at kidsgardening.org. And then anyone who enters into the contest will be entered to win any number of weekly prizes. We have weekly prizes of some gardening books and some botanical soap and cleaning products from one of our sponsors and some gardening gloves. And then we also have monthly prizes. So when the month wraps up, we're going to pick some grand prize winners to receive cash prizes as well as those products that I mentioned. So children can enter individually, or educators could enter as a class with all of the kids, and there will be group/class grand prize winners as well as individual grand prize winners. And it's really just a fun way for all of us to lift up the benefits that gardening has for kids, and to also share some of this fantastic artwork and photos and videos that come in. So if you don't have children, don't work with children, and you still want to get involved with Kids Garden Month, you can follow us on social media where you'll be able to see some of the entries. we get some really fun and quite impressive entries every year.
Hmm. I was just going to ask how people can see some of these entries. So on social media, then you'll be sharing them there.
We will be all throughout the month as they come in. So at Kids Gardening on Instagram and Facebook is where you'll see the most of them. Um, and again, you'll be blown away. I don't know about you, Stephen, because your daughter is an incredible gardener, right? But I think other folks will be blown away by just how impressive these kiddos are and all of the fun they're having, but all of the good they're doing in the garden as well.
That's great. And it sounds like there's a lot of different ways then that they can really get involved in this. You were talking about drawings and different types of artwork. I love that.
Yeah, when we started out the contest many, many years ago, we received even like small sculptures, so kids would build things out of clay or dioramas. So, teachers would just mail us boxes of artwork and crafts and just any way kids want to express themselves and how they feel about gardening is welcome.
Hmm. Nice. Uh, Thinking of kids expressing themselves, I should quickly mention a story here at the Biggs household that my boys thought it would be hilarious to express themselves by coating themselves in mud one day. And but I think I was still happy because they were outside having fun and being creative. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I have two boys as well, and they've been known to coat themselves in mud and sand.
Uh, well, we were going to talk about some hands-on gardening that kids could be doing right at this time of year. And we talked about kitchen scrap gardening, something kids can get right into just using things that people already have around the house. Tell us about some of the different things that we can grow from the kitchen.
Yeah, well, I love kitchen scrap gardening for a couple of reasons. The first is many folks like you and I are still experiencing some cold weather, maybe even a little bit snow. I'm here in Vermont, so we have a little bit of snow on the ground still. We're not really gardening outside yet. This is a fun way to get growing inside. It's also a really fun way for people who are new to gardening with kids to sort of get their feet wet. So when you're doing kitchen scrap gardening, the word kitchen is in the title. You're doing something right in the heart of your home where you're spending a lot of time, and it's not a big leap for kids who are new to gardening. You can do the project right there where you're hanging out in the kitchen, and then you can monitor the progress of these projects every single day when you're having meals or walking through the kitchen and hanging out as a family. So kitchen
Yeah.
scrap gardening can look like many different things. But I'd love to share with you, some of the ideas that we have. And of course, this activity is available as well on kidsgardening.org if your listeners want to follow up afterward to check it out.
Okay. Well, we'll dig into some specific ideas. Before we do, just an email in from Irene saying that Kids Gardening, absolute best program for kids. So thank you, Irene. That's lovely.
Thanks, Irene.
And well, let's start with seeds. What kind of things in our kitchens have seeds that kids can plant?
Yeah, so some seeds are viable, right off the bat, right as soon as you're done consuming that fruit, and some seeds are not and need to be stratified or saved in some other way. So it's good to know which seeds you can plant right away. And what we recommend well, we've divided them into two categories. There are some small seeds and some large seeds that you can as soon as you're done consuming the fruit that you can get ready to plant. So for small seeds, we recommend citrus. Citrus seeds can be planted right away. So you can snack with the kids on some oranges, maybe do lemon and lime taste tests, or have some grapefruit for breakfast and then hang on to those seeds and then just plant them in some moistened potting soil and hang on to them. Keep them moist but not overwatered. And then in about 2 to 4 weeks, you will have seedlings. I should say a big disclaimer, citrus trees take a long time to bear fruit, and even to flower. But these are just a fun, I think, growing experiment. I think framing it as an experiment for your kids and watching them grow, and then
Hmm.
you can transplant them into larger containers as they grow. I know when I was little, I did this with my dad, and he eventually, he took one of the orange trees to his office. It wasn't bearing fruit, but it was just a nice looking plant. And he kept it in his office. And then over the years, eventually it did bear fruit, but it was, many, many years later. So it could be a fun house
Hmm.
plant and even a kind of a pet for a kiddo.
I like that, a pet. And well, the one thing about citrus too that some people might not realize is that those leaves are fragrant when you crush them. So a lemon leaf smells lemony and an orange leaf smells almost orangey. So I think that alone is a really fun thing for kids.
That is a fun thing, and some citrus leaves you can use in cooking as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so citrus is a good example of something with small seeds that we can grow. And one that I've actually never grown, I'm embarrassed to say, but I remember my mom always growing avocados. Do you have any tips on would-be avocado growers or for
I
would?
I absolutely do. Yeah, and that is a popular one. I don't know how many people have success with it, so there are a few tips. One of them is to let the pit dry out for a few days before you plant it. And then you can plant it in soil or you can plant it in water. I think most people envision suspending it over water, and that is absolutely a good way to do it and a fun way to do it so that kids can watch the root come down into the water and watch the sprout come up out of the top of the pit or the seed. And it's fun also just to discuss with kids that a pit is a seed. They think of seeds, I think, as little tiny thing, maybe pumpkin seeds and things like that. But um, that avocado pit is also a seed. And you can read books like one of my favorites is called A Fruit is a Suitcase for Seeds. As you're doing things like this, on our
Hmm?
website, you probably can find, I think you can find some recommendations for children's books. We've made lists over the years that you can read as, to sort of supplement these activities that you're doing. Um, but the avocado is a really fun one. And again, like a citrus, it's going to take a while to grow, but it's a great experiment. And then another one that you could try is mango. So with a
Ooh.
mango, you're going to want to soak the seed for about a week in warm water. You should replace the water each day. Just dump it out and put a little bit more water in. And then you can pot it in soil just like you would an avocado. It can take a few months for that sprout to emerge, but also it's just a fun big seed to watch sprout. And if you're having fun with kids watching seed sprouts, I also recommend that you check out an activity on our site called the Seed Viewer. And it's a way that you can set up seed sprouting so kids can watch them, watch
Hmm.
the roots come down and the sprouts come up.
Excellent, excellent. And by the way, on that note, talking about your site, there you have a whole article on there all about kitchen scrap gardening. So for people who are taking notes and thinking, "Oh yeah, let's do this soon with the kids," there's a whole guide on your website at kidsgardening.org all about kitchen scrap gardening.
And on that same page, my wonderful colleague Christine created a video to demonstrate a lot of the different veggies that you can grow from kitchen scraps. So, if for the visual learners, if you want to check that out, it's a fun one.
We have more kitchen scrap gardening ideas for you coming up. Ginger, sweet potato, carrots, along with things to do outdoors at this time of year with kids. That's coming up in just a moment. Some shout outs today. We're so lucky to have such great listeners. And thanks to Jane, who wrote in to say she's enjoying the show, and to Kelly, who sent Emma a picture of a greenhouse. Kelly, Emma says thanks and gave me a nudge to get going on building that greenhouse. Thanks to everybody for being part of the food gardening gang. New on the website, we have an article all about growing Saskatoon berries, the prairie berry. And for listeners who are in the United States, you might know this as the June berry or the service berry, but this is a fantastic shrub. It's raised commercially as a crop, but it's also really good in a home garden. It is tough as nails. So the Saskatoon berry, new at foodgardenlife.com. You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show, the show that brings together gardening, food, and the human story, with your hosts Emma Biggs and me, Stephen Biggs. Now back to our chat with Em Shipman, who's the Executive Director of Kids Gardening. Well, let's keep going with some different things that we can grow from the kitchen. And what about tubers? Are there any tubers or root crops that you would recommend?
Yes, absolutely. So something I'm growing right now is ginger. Ginger is really fun to grow. Unlike the citrus plants and the avocado, I mean, you can grow this to yield a lot of new ginger for yourself. I just happened to be at a friend's house, and she had a ginger that was sitting on the counter and had sprouted, and I asked if I could have it. Took it home. And she wasn't going to use it. I asked if I could have it, and I took it home and planted it. And then as it's grown over the last, 6 months, I've put it in increasingly larger containers. And when summer comes, I'll be able to put it outside. And then eventually at the end of summer, I'll have a lot of ginger to use and to be able to use over the course of the next year. So ginger's a fun one. Both the cut ends of the ginger and the new leaves of the ginger really have like a nice gingery aroma. You can, like avocado, you can germinate it in water, or you can put it in potting soil. So either way is fun. Again, with the water, you can watch it sprout.
Okay.
And potatoes, you can do potatoes and sweet potatoes as well. That's a fun one. Tubers are a really good one. And I think sweet potatoes could be a fun houseplant just because they have nice foliage.
They do. I know my dad has a sweet potato growing in his apartment right now, and he's had it going all winter just because he likes the leaves of it.
I love the leaves. Yeah, I would plant them ornamentally, even if I wasn't going to get a potato out of it.
What about carrots? People often talk about growing carrot tops or beet tops. How does one go about doing that?
Yeah, those are really fun and fun for kids to be involved in. When you are making dinner, say maybe you're going to roast some root vegetables, some beets or parsnips or carrots. Just chop the top off like you normally would with a few inches of the root itself, and then place it in a saucer that's filled with pebbles and water. And then in a week or so, new greens should appear from the top. And then once that starts to happen, you can put the root into a container filled with moistened potting soil. So again, you're just chopping off that top couple of inches of the root, if it's a beet or a carrot or a parsnip, and you're setting it in some kind of a saucer with gravel on the bottom and some water. New leaves will start to appear and roots will come out, and then you will put that in the soil once that starts to happen, and you'll be growing root vegetables in your home. You're probably going to want to keep that somewhere cool. You can do this exact same technique with pineapple, which is really fun. I remember as a teenager going to Costa Rica for the first time and discovering what a pineapple plant actually looked like. I had not ever thought about it before that point, and was like amazed. So I think it's fun It's fun with fruits like pineapples, and avocados and for some kids even carrots and beets, right? Just for kids to just think a little bit harder about where do these come from? What do the plants look like?
Mm-hmm.
So doing that same approach with putting the top in the saucer of pebbles with the pineapple and then eventually then planting it into some soil. And that can be a nice house plant as well.
Okay, well, those are all fun things to try. So lots of different options for people who want to get growing at this time of year. And let's just take a minute too, just to talk about what are some of the first things for people like you and me who are in more northern areas where we're not really gardening a lot yet, but we're fast getting close to that time. What can we do with kids outdoors right about this time of year in the garden?
Yeah, well, the things that we're doing outdoors right now are, first of all, sort of uncovering things and noticing. This is one of the best times of year to be doing some noticing. And I would say it's one of the biggest benefits for kids in regards to gardening because it's just this slowing down and taking a look at what's going on around you and appreciating the miracle of nature. We know it's science, but it also feels magical and miraculous every spring when
Mm-hmm.
things start to poke out. So my kids and I are raking the leaves off of things and uncovering things and just seeing what's poking out. And then, this is the time of year where like every day you're seeing a couple inches of growth on things. So I have a 7-year-old who loves math and numbers, and we've actually been graphing the growth of some things.
Oh, wow.
Not all kids are going to think that's fun, but he thinks it's fantastic. My 3-year-old, on the other hand, just wants to dig holes, so that's fine for him. So it's like whatever your kid is into, find a way to relate it to gardening.
Mm-hmm.
So we're digging things out. We've started a lot of seeds, and we have seeds growing under lights at home, and that's really fun as well. One thing I like to mention to people about starting seeds with young kids is big seeds for little hands. So, little younger children with little hands are going to get frustrated by small seeds. So give them the job of planting the beans or the pumpkins or the cucumbers just with the bigger seeds or the nasturtiums, things that are easier to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seed starting as well. And then we're talking about the soil and working in compost and new organic matter and amendments into the soil. So those are kinds of the things that we're doing here in this northern part of the United States. But I know some of my colleagues who are further south are already putting tomatoes out. So if you go to kidsgardening.org, you can find, we have this great resource about when to start different veggies and when to start different plants based on where you are located. And I can share that link with you, Stephen, so you can share with your listeners. But
Super.
depending on where you are, you'll want to do different things with kiddos in the spring.
And I should mention something that was a perennial favorite here at the Biggs household was a bug vacuum. We made a
Mhm.
bug vacuum, and my boys would disappear out into the backyard for an hour at a time. And it was just amazing how fascinated they were by this. And they'd catch bugs, let them go, catch some more. And so I know not all kids like bugs. Mine did, but that can be a really fun thing. And also the project of making a bug vacuum.
That's fun. Yeah. I think, yeah, not all kids like bugs, but I think it's fun to try to get kids accustomed to bugs and very gently grow their comfort zone with bugs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, as we wrap up, let's just talk about how people can help kids gardening. The first thing, of course, is to get involved in Kids Garden Month at kidsgardening.org. And I know you have also, there's a donate button on your website for people who are excited about helping out this vision of creating a whole generation of young gardeners. But how do you tell people how they can help kids gardening?
Yeah, we are a nonprofit organization and we're committed to making all the resources that we create available for free for those who want and need them. So we have hundreds of articles, which include, like activities, lesson plans, curricula on our website for free for anyone to come and download. So we encourage you to do that. And we encourage folks to sign up for our email newsletter when they're there as well. We're creating new content every month. So if you're on our email, you'll not only receive all that brand new content every month, but you will receive opportunities to apply to grants for youth gardeners, invitations to participate in different events that we have going on. We have a wonderful webinar series right now going on about culturally inclusive teaching in the garden. So how to use the garden and culturally appropriate foods to create inclusion amongst children and to celebrate different cultures. We also have a course. It's called Landscape Design for Youth Gardens. So if you're thinking of designing a youth garden, we have an e-course available. It's 8 sessions. It's just $20. So that's on our site as well. Lots of ways to engage with kids gardening. And we do appreciate donations. Like I said, we try to keep everything available for free or very low cost so that it's accessible, because our mission is to ensure that all kids have the access to garden-based learning resources and the opportunity to play and learn and grow through the garden. So we do that by, with the generosity of our donors.
Okay. Well, thank you for what you do. And thank you for joining us today to talk about gardening with kids and kitchen scrap gardening, and wishing you a good season in the garden with your kids, Em.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Em. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.
Bye.
That was Em Shipman, who's the Executive Director of Kids Gardening. And you can find Kids Gardening at kidsgardening.org. There are fantastic ideas there, whether you're a neighbor to a kid, a parent, or an educator. And please do support this amazing group. You can donate through their website. In the resources area at kidsgardening.org, you'll find their guide to kitchen scrap gardening. And if you go to the opportunities area at kidsgardening.org, go to contests. And that's where you can find out about those fun Kids Garden Month contests that Em was telling us about. As we wrap up today's episode, I'm still thinking about the bug vacuum. I made bug vacuums with my kids, and they spent hours catching all sorts of bugs and watching them. And I have to admit, it was fun for me too. This is such a fun thing to do. If you like the idea, we have an article about how you can make your own. It's easy to do, and it's a fun project to do with kids. So go to foodgardenlife.com, go to our articles area, and just head into the section about gardening with kids, and you'll see the plans for that bug vacuum there. The podcast is back next Thursday, and next Thursday we head to Quebec to find out about a really special orchard. It's a permaculture orchard, and if you're thinking, Steve, wait a minute, an orchard is a monoculture, how can it be a permaculture? Stefan Subkowiak tells us how to do it. And the neat thing is that you can take those same permaculture orchard ideas he's talking about and use it in a home garden. That's next week. We'd love it if you drop by to say hi online at foodgardenlife.com. We have articles about growing fruit, veg, using your homegrown produce, also about growing figs and lemons in cold climates. So say hi. Tell us the topics that would help you grow more of your own. And you'll also get to see the faces that go with these voices that you hear on the podcast. While you're at foodgardenlife.com, also grab our free newsletter. Subscribers get the subscriber-only cold climate fig guide and small space food gardening tip sheet.
And you can find me on my website, emmabiggs.ca, and on Instagram as emmabiggs_grows.
You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show. I'm Stephen Biggs.
And I'm Emma Biggs. Thanks for tuning in.